wind swept across the open field like a warning. Dust curled around the boots of a man who stood frozen in disbelief, his coffee cup trembling in his hand, steam twisting upward into the cold autumn air. Across from him, a woman in a bright red suit, crimson against the pale sky, stood like fire itself. Her eyes were steel, her jaw tight. She wasn't here to argue. She was here to end something. "Do you have any idea what you're doing, Mark?" She snapped, pointing sharply toward him. "You're standing on federal land, obstructing an operation you can't even begin to understand." Mark didn't flinch. His boots sank slightly into the dirt as he shifted his weight. "Federal land? This is my father's ranch. Been in our family since before you were even born, Evelyn." That name, Evelyn Chase, carried weight in this county. She wasn't just any official. She was the deputy director of Western Infrastructure, a woman known for getting things done, no matter who stood in her way. And now she was standing on Willow Creek Ranch, backed by 2 police SUVs, a handful of officers, and a crew of construction workers tightening fences near the cattle pens. In the distance, heavy machinery rumbled, bulldozers and cranes lined up along the turquoise edge of the lake. This wasn't a visit. It was an invasion. The air buzzed with tension, the kind that makes animals uneasy. Even the cows in the pen seemed to sense it, their low moos echoing through the stillness. "Evelyn, listen to me," Mark said, his voice steady but burning with restrained anger. "You can't just roll up here with your people and start tearing things down. That lake feeds our livestock, our crops. It's our lifeline." Evelyn turned, gesturing toward the shimmering water behind her. "That lake is a contamination zone now. Mark, you and your family have been sitting on toxic waste runoff for years, and we're cleaning it up before it kills someone." Mark's hand tightened around his cup. "You're lying." A few police officers exchanged uneasy looks. They'd heard rumors about the government project at Willow Creek. Whispers about hidden motives, land grabs, power deals, backroom contracts. But no one dared challenge a woman in red who carried federal authority. Evelyn stepped closer, her heels crunching over the gravel. "You think this is about you?" "It's not. It's about saving a town that's been poisoned for decades. You should be thanking me." "Thanking you?" Mark scoffed. "For bulldozing my home?" The wind caught her hair as she paused, and for just a split second, something flickered behind her eyes. Regret? Doubt. It vanished as quickly as it came. "Get your livestock out of the containment zone," she ordered. "You have until sundown." Mark's jaw clenched. "And if I don't?" Evelyn didn't answer. She just turned and nodded to the lead officer. The man lifted his radio and muttered a command. Engines roared to life as the construction crew began moving closer to the fences. Mark's brother, Jake, came jogging from the barn, his hands still covered in grease. "What the hell's going on here?" Mark didn't answer. He just looked at Evelyn, and something in his silence said it all. Jake stepped up beside him, eyes narrowing at the woman in red. "You again. You people just don't quit, do you?" Evelyn folded her arms. "You can take this up with the state, but the project begins today." Jake looked past her toward the officers, the workers, the giant yellow machines. His fists tightened. "Not on my watch." The situation teetered on the edge of chaos. Then, from the far side of the field, an old pickup truck rattled to a stop. A frail man climbed out, gray beard, denim jacket, oxygen tank strapped to his back. It was William Hayes, Mark and Jake's father. Everyone fell silent. Even the officers hesitated as he hobbled forward, dragging his oxygen line behind him. His eyes, though dim, still carried authority, the kind that once ran this whole valley. He stopped a few feet from Evelyn and rasped, "Miss Chase, my family built this land with our hands. My father died in that barn. My son was born by that creek. You think you can just erase that with a signature and a bulldozer?" Evelyn stood firm, but her face softened. "Mr. Hayes, I'm following federal orders. There's contamination here. We have reports." "Reports," William interrupted, his voice trembling with age and fury. "You have reports, I have proof. You people made that contamination. You did it when you built that pipeline up the hill." A murmur rippled through the workers. A few even stopped what they were doing. Evelyn's expression hardened again. "That's a serious accusation, sir." William took a shaky breath. "It's not an accusation. It's the truth. I was there when your contractors buried the leak." Evelyn's face went pale. She opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, a shout echoed from near the lake. "Ma'am, we've got a problem." Everyone turned. A cloud of steam was rising from the ground near the machinery. Workers were backing away fast. Something underground was hissing, loud, violent, unnatural. Mark dropped his coffee and started running. Evelyn followed, barking orders to the officers. Within seconds, they were at the edge of the site, staring at a metal pipe splitting open, spewing dark water into the soil. The cleanup zone was leaking again. Evelyn froze, realization dawning in her eyes. Mark turned to her, voice shaking with anger. "You see it now? That's your government's work, not ours." Evelyn didn't respond. The red suit that had once made her look untouchable now seemed almost fragile against the chaos. The officers began shouting into radios. Workers tried to shut off valves, but the pressure was too high. The hissing grew into a roar, and then silence. A deep rumble vibrated through the ground. The lake rippled. Mark stepped back slowly. "Evelyn, what did you do?" The sound hit first, a bone-rattling boom that echoed across the valley like thunder tearing through the mountains. Then came the shockwave. The ground beneath them lurched, the air split open, and the once calm waters of Willow Creek erupted into chaos. Mark hit the dirt, shielding his head as debris flew through the air. Jake pulled their father down beside a tractor, yelling over the roar, "Dad! Stay down!" The construction site was a blur of motion, workers scrambling, shouting, sirens wailing as the police vehicles came alive. Smoke poured into the sky, thick and black, while a bitter, chemical smell spread across the field. And through it all, Evelyn Chase, the woman in the red suit, stood frozen. Her perfect red jacket now speckled with mud and ash. Her eyes locked on the ruptured pipe that had just destroyed months of planning and nearly taken lives. A police officer ran toward her. "Ma'am, we've got to evacuate." "That pipe's connected to a pressurized containment line." Evelyn snapped out of her trance. "Shut it down now." "Cut the main feed." The officer hesitated. "We don't have access codes for that. It's a federal system." Her face went white. That meant one thing. Someone else controlled the site. Someone higher up. Mark got to his feet, coughing, eyes burning from the smoke. "You see it now? This is what I've been telling you, Evelyn. You were sent here to clean up someone else's mess. And they're still making it worse." Evelyn turned sharply. "Stay back, Hayes. You don't understand what's at stake here." "Oh, I understand perfectly," Mark said, stepping closer, his voice hard as steel. "You're just another government mouthpiece sent to bury the truth. You call it contamination. I call it cover-up." The heat radiating from the ruptured pipe shimmered through the air. Workers were dragging hoses, trying to keep the fire from spreading to the barns. The cows bellowed in panic, crashing against the fences. Evelyn's radio crackled. "Director Chase, this is command. You need to withdraw your team immediately. Repeat, withdraw. We're initiating remote containment." Her eyes widened. "Remote containment? No, you can't. There are civilians here." Static. Then a cold voice replied, "Orders are in motion. This area is compromised." She ripped the radio from her shoulder and threw it to the ground. "Those bastards," she muttered. Mark frowned. "What did they say?" "They're sealing the site," she said, looking toward the lake. "If the containment system engages, it'll flood the whole area, the water, chemicals, everything. They're going to drown the contamination, and everything else with it." Jake stepped forward, furious. "That includes us!" Evelyn met his eyes, her voice trembling for the first time. "Yes, that includes all of us." The ground vibrated again, not an explosion this time, but a mechanical hum, low and steady, building from deep beneath the earth. The lake began to swirl, its turquoise color darkening as a metallic sheen spread across the surface. Mark turned toward the old barn. "Jake, get Dad out of here!" Jake didn't argue. He hoisted their father's arm over his shoulder and half dragged him toward the truck. But William Hayes, weak as he was, refused to leave. "Not yet," he gasped. "Not till she hears the truth." Evelyn looked at him, sweat running down her face from the heat. "Mr. Hayes, you need medical help, please." He cut her off, coughing hard. "You think this land is poisoned?" "You're right, but not because of us." He pointed a shaking hand toward the far ridge, where old, rusted equipment lay half buried in dirt and weeds. That's where your company drilled 20 years ago. They hit a gas vein and tried to hide it. Leaked right into the water table. Evelyn's mind spun. My company? William nodded weakly. Your badge says Western Infrastructure. Different name now, sure, but same devil's running it. Her breath caught. She knew the name Western Infrastructure wasn't clean, but she'd believed in the mission, in helping rebuild, in protecting the land. The realization hit like ice water down her spine. She'd been cleaning up her own agency's crimes. For a moment, her strength cracked. I didn't know, she whispered. Mark stepped closer, eyes full of both rage and pity. Then help us stop them. Evelyn looked toward the construction vehicles, the half-collapsed fences, the lake pulsing like something alive. She straightened, wiping the soot from her hands. We need access to the control terminal. Where's your power feed? Jake pointed toward a small metal shack near the excavator. Over there, but it's locked tight. Evelyn ran for it, Mark right behind her. The heat was unbearable, the air thick with smoke. As they reached the shack, Evelyn pulled a badge from inside her jacket, a federal clearance card, black with gold lettering. She swiped The red light on the control panel blinked steadily. Access denied. Evelyn slammed her fist against the steel door. Damn it, they've revoked my clearance. Mark looked around, panicked. Smoke curled through the air like snakes, wrapping the ranch in a toxic haze. Then we're out of time, he said. If that containment system floods, everything, the house, the cattle, the land, it's gone. Evelyn's mind raced. She'd been in crisis zones before, but never one where she was both the rescuer and the enemy. She took a breath, steadying herself. There's still a failsafe. The local terminal. Every site has one, buried near the central pipeline. Mark frowned. You mean underground? Beneath the lake? Evelyn nodded. If we reach it, I can stop the flood manually. Mark laughed bitterly. You'll drown before you get there. She looked him dead in the eye. Then I'll drown doing the right thing for once. They sprinted toward the water's edge, the ground trembling beneath their boots. Behind them, Jake was helping their father into the truck, coughing from the fumes. Mark! Jake shouted. Where the hell are you going? Mark turned back. Buying us time. He and Evelyn reached the shoreline, where black liquid was now swirling like oil in a pot. The once beautiful lake looked cursed, reflections warped. Birds gone silent, trees glowing orange in the haze. Evelyn pulled off her red jacket and tossed it aside, revealing a black undershirt streaked with dirt. If the access tunnel is still open, we'll find it near the drainage vent. Mark stared at her for a long second. You don't have to do this. She looked at the ruined landscape around them, men shouting, sirens echoing, the ranch she'd just condemned. Yes, I do. They waded into the water. It was warm, wrong, tinged with chemicals. Mark coughed, covering his mouth. God, it stinks. Evelyn pressed forward, scanning the edge of the bank, until she saw a half-buried metal hatch just above the waterline. She wiped away the mud to reveal faded words. UI access node, do not enter. She looked back at him. That's it. Mark grabbed the handle and heaved. Rust groaned. The metal screeched open, revealing a dark shaft below. After you, he said grimly. Evelyn descended first, the ladder shaking under her weight. Below, flickering lights illuminated. A narrow corridor filled with cables and humming machinery. The smell of oil and ozone filled the air. This whole thing's a nerve center, she muttered. It's controlling everything up there. Mark followed her down, boots echoing on metal. Then kill it! Evelyn moved to the main console, wiping grime off the screen. The display blinked. Containment sequence engaged. Time to seal, 104:28. 4 minutes, she said. Mark looked over her shoulder. You can stop it? Yes, but I need your help. She pointed to a lever across the room. Manual override, pull that when I say. Outside, the storm grew worse. The ground cracked. The air buzzed with electricity. Jake watched from the truck, terrified. His father's oxygen mask hissed quietly. Jake, the old man rasped, your brother's doing what I couldn't. What's that? Standing up to the people who think they own this country. Back below, Evelyn's fingers flew across the console. Come on, come on. She bypassed system locks, heart pounding. Then, success. A new line of code flashed across the screen. Manual override enabled. She shouted, "Now, Mark!" He pulled the lever with all his strength. The room shuddered. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Sirens screamed as lights turned from red to green. The containment timer froze. 007. Evelyn exhaled, her whole body shaking. We did it. But the victory was short-lived. A metallic groan echoed through the tunnel. The ruptured pipeline above was collapsing. Water began pouring down through cracks in the ceiling. Mark grabbed her arm. "We have to move." They climbed back up the ladder, water rising around their boots. Evelyn slipped, but Mark caught her hand, hauling her upward. They burst out of the hatch as the ground gave way, a geyser of black water shooting into the sky behind them. Both fell onto the dirt, gasping for air. The roar subsided. The humming stopped. The machines went dead. For the first time all day, silence. The sun broke through the clouds, weak but golden. The smoke began to drift away. Jake ran toward them. "You're alive!" Evelyn lay on her back, drenched, trembling, staring up at the open sky. For now, William Hayes was leaning against the truck, pale but smiling faintly. "Told you, son. Sometimes even the devil can change her mind." Evelyn looked at him, then at Mark. "I didn't do it for me. I did it because I've spent too long following orders that buried the truth." Mark nodded slowly. "Then help us dig it up." She sat up, glancing toward the horizon where the lake shimmered. Now calm, but forever changed. "I will," she said. "But this time the whole country's going to hear what really happened here." 2 weeks later, the news exploded nationwide. Willow Creek cover-up, federal agency under investigation. Evelyn Chase had resigned from her post and handed over classified documents, exposing 2 decades of environmental fraud. Footage of the woman in the red suit standing beside the Hayes family played across every major network. Some called her a traitor. Others called her a hero. Mark watched from the ranch porch, sipping coffee. The land was scarred but alive. The cattle grazed again under a wide blue sky. Jake came out holding the paper. "You think she'll be okay?" Mark smiled faintly. "People like her never stop fighting. They just change what they're fighting for." He looked out toward the rebuilt fence, the glimmer of clean water beyond it. "Maybe this time we all learned something." Sometimes. The fight for truth isn't in a courtroom or a capitol. It's out there, in the dirt, in the hands of ordinary people who refuse to be silent. The woman in the red suit came to Willow Creek to enforce the law. But she left as someone who finally understood it. And as long as there are voices willing to speak, and people willing to stand their ground, no amount of power, money, or fear can bury the truth forever. If this story moved you, share it. Tell someone what happens when courage meets conscience. Because the world doesn't change with silence. It changes with stories like this one.